All right, we'll get this started. We call the meeting to order. It being 6:05, if Rich joins us, we can pick up there. Does anybody have the opportunity to read the minutes from the January 6th meeting? And if so, are there any changes?
I'll move that we accept the January 6th minutes.
Any seconds? All right. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is unanimous. Oh, can someone take the meeting minutes?
Yeah, I can only stay till 7, but I could take them until then.
Yeah, we're done at 7. That was the plan.
All right.
But I think it was both Lisa and Rich had said they got to bolt at 7. So
Okay.
We don't have to take too long tonight if there's some things we want to discuss, though.
Okay.
So I did hear back from one department head from the head of the library. She's going to have a couple thoughts in the coming weeks. So she'll be attending in a future meeting to go over. I didn't get into specifics, but she has a couple of thoughts. So I don't know if anybody's heard of anything else. Will sent along the
survey questions.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Got the word survey for a moment. Looking to see if did you send that to the charter review email?
I think that's what I sent it to. Yeah.
That's what I thought. All right. Let me just pull that up. Then I can show people.
Can I make a suggestion that we send the agendas to Tony Moquin?
I did.
Okay, then I didn't think I saw anything.
Yeah, I know I have access, so I think it's something that I can post as well. So I'll make sure that I'm going to post a couple of things. So we'll make sure that that's up there.
Okay.
As well. All right, let me just share something with you. All right, everybody can see?
Yes.
All right, so this is a draft survey that we'll put together. This would go out through the town's. So the idea is to just get a general sense of what people would think. So as you can see, so the intro is. Yep, I mean, the intro is fine. So the categories would list these are the categories that we have listed as kind of general umbrellas.
Yeah, so I tried to make it the first part like very open-ended, like pick something that you want to talk about, and then I think it would be like a couple line response, and then lower on is when it's like a multiple choice.
Yeah. So it gets into, let's throw it out there. Do you want to continue to have a town meeting? Do you want to move to a town council mayor? Do you want something else? What if we keep town meeting? What structure should it be? Open town meeting versus representative? I'm walking through this, Will. Maybe you should walk us through it.
That's okay. And again, we wanted it to be open-ended. So if like town employees or department heads or citizens want to respond about anything, they'd have the top part of this and they could skip the bottom or whatever. But then just the idea of getting some just background information for our own internal conversations here. Like one is just like Rick said, like form of government. And then if we stay with town meeting, do we keep the town meeting as it is? Do we go to a representative town meeting? Do we talk about changing the quorum for town meeting? That's something that gets debated every 3 to 4 years here anyway. Size of the select board, go back to 3 or go up to 11. If you scroll a little bit more for us, let's see, I think that was it. Yep. The idea of what boards are appointed, what boards are elected. And I think, another set of eyes on this would be good, but I tried to list out the currently elected and the currently appointed. And this is, do you want to keep it or change it? opportunity, like if we get a critical mass on one of these things, maybe we talk about it more extensively. And then general questions, just to kind of help going forward. Do you feel well informed about what Abington's doing? Are you informed about town services? And these, we don't have to have these, but it will help if we want to build an argument for, improving town communications one way or another. Process for vetting committee members would speak to appointed versus elected. How do you stay informed? This again is just maybe for us as we move forward. I felt like 100 years old. Newspapers, radio, public access, town. But it's like social media is what it's going to be, and trying to see what apps and what sites, or website type things. And then a little further down, some optional demographic information. In case we want to respond to people, they can put in their contact email. And then I thought we'd try to get an address and precinct just so we can see, if there's a part of town that we're hearing the same message from a certain part of town. And then age range and how long they've lived in town. And some of this is based on, I was looking at surveys that other towns have been doing over the last, 4 or 5 years. And I'll say this too, this is a good, hopefully a good preliminary survey. There are towns, charter committees that do 2 or 3 surveys, like they'll get a little bit further in and start trying to get more feedback. And I think we should, keep that option open too.
It's a great idea. My first suggestion is, I think question 1, 2, and 3 should come a little bit later.
Okay.
I feel like we jump right into the deep end.
Yep.
So maybe if we start with the next couple questions, that gets people thinking a little bit. And then we can come back to say, the committee is generally looking at these topics as ways to identify any issues. Looking at these topics, are there anything that pops to mind, et cetera?
Yeah, and this is a Google Doc, so I don't know if you want to just switch it around. If you're going to, Rick, be the one who sends it to the powers that be, or I can make the edits and resend it.
Okay. We'll also make sure the other committee members see it. We'll go over it again at our next meeting just to make sure they can take a peek at it. But I think it's on the right track. I think that's what we want to be doing, is to start to just get a general sense of where people stand on things. And like you said, this certainly isn't the last time that we can do this. We can do this multiple times. That's a great thing about these online surveys now. Right. Have to fork over printing costs and mailers and whatnot. You can just you can post it, and there it is. All right. Any other thoughts about this before we move on to something else? All right. Are there any thoughts about the current charter? Do you want to start going through it a little bit more, or should we kind of postpone that until we have the full board?
How far did we make it last time?
I think we stopped at 314, which is vacancy in office.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Certainly an issue that has had some visibility over the past year,
right?
Which is just the process used to fill openings on boards. And if you read this over, it's no wonder it's very dense and convoluted at times, and can probably use either simplification or a different structure to make it easier and more understood what the way can be. For instance, there was an occasion this fall where they asked for people to join a board, and they weren't thrilled with what they got. And so they wanted to reopen it. And so the question was, do we keep the names that we got? Do they have to reapply? Do the names carry over? Does the cold clock start? Because there's a timing thing in here. If you ask for new names, does the whole thing start over, or does it still have to be fit into that original time frame? Those are just some of the the issues. I have a couple other thoughts in terms of, particularly with the elected boards. Well, the rules are different for the elected boards versus the appointed boards, first of all, which is probably something we should look at, just making uniform. But I would argue that the appointed, there should be a note in there saying that when it's an appointed, when the appointed board is meeting with the Board of Selectmen to fill that vacancy, that the appointing board, the elected board, basically should be able to nominate a person first.
Right.
They're the ones that have to work with them, him or her, and understand what the board needs and how it can operate. And then, the Board of Selectmen can still has probably more votes, and they can probably say no if they really oppose. But I think that the elected board should have basically the first slot in the draft in some ways, the first draft pick.
So, I mean, and I agree, Rick, I think this needs to be fleshed out a little bit more because it depends on the board, right? Like if it's, I don't know, name an elected board that's got, so let's pretend it's the library. The library's got 9 members.
Yeah.
They can nominate whoever they want and automatically win because it's going to be 8 versus 5 if everybody shows up, right? So
the library is unified, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't know if we need to address something like that or not, but
it's an outlier because I think that's the largest board.
That's what I think too. Right.
So school committee, board of health, planning board,
they're all 5, right?
5-member boards.
Yeah.
So if you're down a person,
4, right?
5 versus 4. So at least give the elected board the ability to say
fighting chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, it just turns into a shouting match. Whoever can make a motion first, the loudest.
Right. Exactly.
Or have the Board of Selectmen just have a veto power over the committee's choice.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Because that way, the Board of Selectmen wouldn't have either an advantage or disadvantage. It would be the fact that the Board of Selectmen didn't like the choice, and the particular committee would have to look for another candidate.
Nope, I think that's another good strategy. Another one that I'd kicked around, but I don't know if it has legs, is in these situations, do we have the moderator make the recommendation and then the 2 boards vote?
Right.
He can bring a slate of 3 or 5 in a certain order, and then the 2 boards just vote down the list. Either way, I think there's some options, or we decide not to change it at all. But
yeah.
I think there's also a question. All right, so let's say there's a joint meeting of the planning board and the Board of Selectmen. Who is chairing that meeting?
Yeah.
Who makes the call on who is making the nomination and the seconding and the voting? I don't know. I have to read this a little more careful. I don't know if it specifically says who's.
Yeah, it says joint meeting multiple times, I think, but it doesn't. I don't think it spells out who the chair of that meeting is.
For instance, when a constitutional convention is happening in the legislature, it says the president of the Senate is chairing the meeting of the 2 branches.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's vague at best in this.
Okay, I'm just making some notes. So I think this is one section that's going to need some time that we're going to need to go through it pretty well. So we'll pause on this for now unless there's any other comments to be made. The next one is town manager, and let's see if I can actually pull it up so people could follow along at home. All right. All right, so I'm going to share again. All right, so that's visible.
Yep.
All right. I don't know if there's any particular interest in this. I know, I believe this was part of the 2004 town charter change. This is a pretty major one. We can certainly ask if there's anything. We did run into an issue where Scott Lambiase was selected, that he technically hadn't finished his undergrad degree, even though he had all the years of professional experience. And so as a result, he had to be hired as an interim. And then when he finished the degree, he got the interim was dropped and became full town manager. I don't know if that warrants a change, but I just wanted that put out there. That's certainly not a knock on Scott. I was on the committee that nominated him, and I think it was a great choice. But that was certainly one little thing that we overlooked in this process.
Is there, I can't remember, is there any interim language anywhere?
I don't remember.
No.
I don't believe so.
Okay, I can't remember there being any. Like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's.
Yeah, what's interesting, it says, shall not hold any other elective or appointive, which is a weird word, appointive town office. It doesn't specify whether it's our town or another town.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there's something further. Towards the end of the town manager section, there's a thing about appointing the new town manager. And I think there's something that says that you can name an acting in between, but that's a totally different situation than what you're describing.
Yeah. So I don't know if how people, that's something we can come back to. People have strong feelings one way or the other. I think this is about the fact that he's a strong town manager. And I'd be interested to hear from Board of Selectmen members, anyone else who feels that, this should be changed, could be changed. Someone who's worked directly with the town managers over the past 20 years. I think we should reach out to some of the past selectmen, see what their feelings are now that they've been removed for a few years. I'd be curious to find out. So there is language in here saying that basically the Board of Selectmen has veto power over some of the department head appointees, but they has to be executed within 15 days basically. And I don't know if that's had an issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember one.
So this gets into just his very long list of administrative powers and duties.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
I agree with you, Rick. It's almost, we'd be better off, like you said, having previous either town managers or select board people talk about anything that they've seen that's not there or that doesn't need to be there.
Yep.
I mean, we could definitely look at it too, but that feedback would be great.
Yeah, and there might be some question about making sure appointed committees are staying up to date on training and other factors like that. I think that's come up recently.
Yes.
And so there might be a need for some language that basically just says that, in consultation with the Board of Selectmen to ensure that committees have policies and procedures reviewed annually and the members are taking part in available trainings, et cetera. But I would certainly want to find out from people who have been sitting in that seat how that's working. So section 4.4, the town manager is essentially also the CFO. Scott and the previous town manager have effectively appointed finance directors, which I don't think changes anything. But I think that this language basically says the final power rests with the town manager when it comes to the budget. So he can have somebody help him and assist putting it together. And I think they've done so ably. But at the end of the day, he's the final person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There might be a need for some language that says, while preparing it, just to spell out the, revenue sources better. But that might just be my own particular little thing. Because we spend some time on the spending, we don't do much on where the money's coming from. And I don't know if that'll be helpful or if that's just a, personal preference. I don't think we've had any issues with temporary absences. I don't remember. Pete, do you remember anything?
No.
Okay.
I feel like they added part of that's new from within the last 10 years. Not the whole thing, but the second paragraph might have been. I could be making that up. Let's see.
Okay.
But I don't remember anything either.
Okay. Okay. Yep, that's the acting town manager language, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
The removal and suspension one is interesting because basically it's a majority vote. At least when there's,
yeah,
even if it's 4 people voting or 3 people there at the meeting, all 3 have to.
Right.
So, I don't know if you want to make it a super majority, which means that 4 out of the 5, but I think people might have some thoughts on this too. But we can find out. We can just jump around for a second. What I'd be curious about, because the next one gets into administrative organization, police department, DPW, and I think it's led to a bit of a heavier lift. Has anyone been able to have any time to look at what other towns are doing?
I mean, I've looked a little bit, but not as much as I probably should have. And it's funny, like everything seems not completely different, but like every town does it in a slightly different manner. It's almost like comparing apples and oranges to a certain, like sometimes they're super focused on this. Some of the stuff we have is in their bylaws, and some of the stuff they have is in our bylaws. So it's almost hard to compare the two. That's what I found. But again, I'm not spending hours a day looking at it yet.
I mean, a lot of charters become reactionary to something. They have a bad town manager, and so they have to put specific language in. I would like to start to make a more formal effort, I think, just to look at what some other towns are doing and bring back some ideas. So even if it's, just a nice exercise for every meeting is everyone has to bring back one little idea from some other charter that we've seen someplace else. I don't want people spending hours and hours researching charters from all over Massachusetts, but
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I think it'd be at least a good exercise where that's your homework for the
right. Yeah, it's not that wouldn't be heavy lifting if you review 1 or 2 or whatever and try to bring back something. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. What time is it? 6:30. I don't know how you feel. I think I'd rather some of this other stuff. I'd rather wait for the rest of the group because we're getting into some heavier stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it again with more people in the room anyway. So
Yeah, and then one thing I have heard, just to jump way ahead while we're here, is number and gender.
okay,
The movement has been in recent to call it officially the select board versus board of selectmen.
yep,
And then each person is referenced by their gender. So it would be selectman, select woman, select person.
We have to keep it at select anything. Could it be council person or any other,
We can have that conversation. We can name executive board. We can name it council. We can name it board of elders.
Yeah.
Alderman. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think we're restricted.
I think at this point it's called the select board because that's the way it's always been. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But at the very least, the formal name of it, I think, is discussing whether to change it just to reflect that we no longer say fireman. We no longer say postman.
Right.
We have other names to reflect the fact that there are multiple genders working these roles.
Right.
And I mean, we haven't had many female select people in the past 15 years, but
Yeah.
should certainly just adjust that. All right. So I think why don't we set the next meeting at the very least?
Okay. Okay. Just like if we do, let's say we update it to say select board, just we can just say that's one of the updates we made. We're not going to have to outline every place we changed it in the document, probably, right? That's just
no, but we would have to make a number of changes,
right. Because I mean, yeah, no, we'd have to vote a lot of article changes, but when we review it, we can
yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, sorry.
It might be. I was trying to think, is like when legislations the state house will have to do the same thing, and they have to go through and
Right.
So I don't know if we just have to list every line that maybe it's in, or say every reference shall be changed to,
Right.
and then you do a find and copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next meeting. So the first Thursday isn't good for Rich. Second Thursday, I think we had agreed upon. So I don't have my calendar in front of me.
What's 10th of February?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the second Thursday in February?
10th. Yep. That's what Pete. And I had that written down already too.
Okay.
Did
just to make sure.
Yeah.
Would this be live or?
Well, that's a good question. I think the numbers are coming down quick, so we might be able to meet in person if people are comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
I would prefer to if we can.
Right. Yeah, I think by then we should consider it.
Yeah. All right. So what we will do is I will notify the rest of the members of our meeting for February 10th.
Okay.
Hopefully in person. We'll try to get the Cotter room. Notify them of their homework assignment regarding finding something from a different town, as well as making sure they have the poll that we'll put together, and to submit any thoughts or updates or changes, and then we can kind of compile it and have a final version to vote on the 10th. Scott is looking at our availability of when we could send it out. I guess whatever arrangement they have currently, we get one survey a month basically. So I think they're looking just to see what the calendar looks like.
Okay.
I will make sure that the library director is invited to the next meeting, and as well as anybody else who has a thought or a feeling. So we can start to meet with those groups as well.
Sounds good.
Sound good? Well,
Yep.
I appreciate everybody coming out for the 35 minutes. It's winter. We're going to do.
Yeah, right. What are you gonna? That's doing the best we can. I'll put the notes, minutes together, and I'll send those out in the next couple of days.
Great. Thank you very much. Unless anybody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks.